Rev up your engines!
Biden's allowing them to sell E15 gas now that has 15% ethanol. Now, normally we have 10%. It's to boost the octane, of course. It's an absurd thing because ethanol process of making it from corn is like a 26% loss process when you compare all the fertilizer that's used from petrochemicals and the diesel and then making the alcohol out of the corn, heating it up. You actually lose 26% more energy than you gain by burning the stuff, so it's kind of stupid in the first place. Now, they're going to allow them to put 15% instead of 10 to fight the Putin gas increase, they call it, right? These are the same clowns that are saying, oh, we're going to get 59 miles a gallon in a few years, all cars. Guess what? Ethanol is worse. Ethanol has 20% less energy than gasoline, so you get 25% worse gas mileage. I have customers that use the E85, that's 85% ethanol, and they do get 20 to 25% worse gas mileage than they do if they run gasoline, if they have one of those bi-fuel cars that's flex fuel that can use both E85 or just regular gas that's only got 10% ethanol. Here we have hypocrisy in action. You know, they say one thing, they do the other. Typical politicians, there's no difference between any of them. Hilarious enough, in 2019, Trump did the same thing. He said, oh, we're going to use it now. So Biden's doing what Trump did. Yeah, they say how different they are. Yeah, they're peas in a pod, baby. Peas in a pod. Well, you can't believe some of the stuff that happens with Tesla, but yes, indeed, it does happen. Tesla isn't refunding this guy's money for a car that he bought. He's been waiting 2 years for a refund, too. I'm not making this up. February 28, 2020, this dude bought a Model X for $116,000, right? It was touted as 400 miles range. He found out it didn't have 400-mile range. And the door stuck, too, the fancy Falcon doors, right? Well, that stuck, and they didn't work right. He knew as soon as he picked it up. He went half a mile from the dealer to his house, half a mile, and it drained 15 miles of distance from the meter that says how many miles you got left to go. It acted like it uses 15 miles of electricity going half a mile. So he wasn't really happy with it. They lied to him about putting a charger at his house. It ended up costing him 10 times what the Tesla salesman had told him was going to cost. 10 times as much. Now, back then, 2 years ago, Musk touted his liberal return policy. 8 days later, Tesla rep said, we're processing your refund. Well, 2 years later, I guess they're still processing it. The guy hasn't gotten his money. 3 months of waiting, got nowhere, so he decided he was going to sue Tesla. But it turns out he couldn't. He was informed that he has to go to alternative dispute resolution process. Little to his knowledge, he didn't read the whole contract, and I quote, in the contract, when he signed paperwork in order to take delivery of the Model X, he'd agreed to an arbitration clause. A lot of sleazy companies do that. You can't sue. You signed an arbitration, you got to arbitrate. Well, guess what? He still 2 years later hasn't gotten his money. And here's the hilarious thing. He's leasing a Prius to get around, and his Model X payments, even 2 years later, are still coming out of his account for a car he doesn't even have. Personally, I have to say, the man's name is Roman. The man has something wrong in his head, because here's what he says. After everything I've been through, says Roman, I am still a huge believer in Tesla, Elon Musk, and electric cars. Well, some people, they don't learn from their mistakes, I guess. They're still charging his account the monthly payments they're going through, and he hasn't gotten his money back from them. Some people, they believe in something. Don't ever let belief take over from rationality. When you see something is one way and you believe something else, maybe you should change your belief, you know? Sam Dorchester says, Scotty, have you heard of the Dodge Ram Hemi knock engines? I have a 2020 Ram 2500 and a second engine. This one is as bad as the first. Oh, yeah, all the time. See, the problem is they went for more and more horsepower. Some of those Hemis are over 700 horsepower now, right? And what they did was the cam's in the middle of the engine and the crank was just below it originally. So at idle and low speeds, the splashing of oil from the crankshaft would splash up on the camshaft and the lobes and lubricate it. Well, they decided, let's make a bigger, faster Hemi. So they redesigned it. And what they did was they moved the cam much higher. So at low speeds at idling, it doesn't splash and reach the cam. And that makes all kinds of noise, lift or tick. It's a design flaw. They built them wrong. They won't admit it, but they did. And you always have that problem eventually. You can rebuild them, and then they'll run for a while, if rebuilt correctly. But then the same problem will come up because they're just too far apart and they don't get lubrication. It's a design flaw. The idiotic engineers didn't even think of that when they built it, and then, oh, gee, these things don't work right now. I don't understand what happened. Travis Sheehan says, Scotty got an '06 Yukon. It leaks oil on the ground. Replace valve covers that are leaking. Still leaks. What could it be? Oh, front main seal, rear main seal, what you do is watch my video, finding the source of car oil leaks. Get some ultraviolet leak dye. You can get a kit with the dye, yellow sunglasses, and a UV light. They sell them on Amazon, AutoZone, all kinds of places sell them, right? You put the dye in the engine oil, run it 20 minutes, then come by with a UV light and yellow sunglasses, and you'll see those leaks are glowing. If it's coming between the engine and the tranny, it means the rear main seal of the engine. You got to pull the transmission off to fix it. If it's in the front of the engine, that's the front main seal. You'd see it dripping down, and you don't have to clean the old oil off because the new oil has the dye in it, and you'll see the dye dripping down. And of course, it goes by gravity, so you follow the drip up, and wherever it's coming from, that's where the leak is. Easy way to check them out. Pray it's not the rear main seal, because you're going to have to pull your tranny to fix that. If that's the case, try some of that AT205 reseal in your engine oil. It can make the seals rejuvenate and stop leaking. They're only good for seals. They won't stop a gasket leak, but if your front or rear main seal's leaking, those can do wonders. Omar says, Scotty, I got a Sonata 2013. When I turn the key to ignition, the engine turns, but it stops as soon as I let go of the key. Odds are your ignition switch is worn out. They eventually wear out. They have contacts in them, right? If you're holding the key and it starts up, and then you let go, and it stops, you're losing power. And that's the most common thing, is that when you let go from starting the car, that contact is now broken. The one that goes to the starter, that's a stronger contact because starters use a lot of power. They're built stronger. But when you let go, the second contact is a weaker built one. So it's the first one to go out. Put a new ignition switch in, and you'll probably find it'll fix the whole thing. I fixed tons of them that way. A1 Recording said, I fixed the water pump and the radiator. My car still overheats. 2006 Chrysler Town and Country. Do you think it's the thermostat? Well, let's pray it is. You're going to do a water pump and a radiator, change the thermostat. Thermostats don't cost much. Change the thermostat. Then you got a good base. Now, you want to pray that's what it is, because many times I see people, the water pump breaks or the radiator leaks, the car overheats. If you overheated it badly enough, you can blow the head gasket. So change the thermostat and then do my test. How to tell if your head gasket's blown. Scotty, watch that YouTube video. And you can get the kit for 30, 40 bucks on Amazon. It's easy to do. Pray that that test is negative, that the blue liquid stays blue and doesn't turn yellow. Because if it turns yellow, it means your head gasket's blowing. You have to tear your engine apart. Nico says, Scotty, I got an '08 and Mazda 6. I changed the bulbs and fuses, but the low beams and license plate like work when they want to. How can I fix it? Generally, that means you have a ground problem. Realize bulbs work with power and ground, because 12 volts DC, you got to have a complete circuit. You got to have power and ground. And since you say they work and they don't work, check the ground, especially in the trunk. You might just go to the ground wires. The easy thing is to just splice a little of that plastic insulation off, solder on a nice wire, then send that wire to a nice solid bolt in the trunk and bolt that on tight and reground the whole system. You'll probably find it'll go away. When you have a ground problem, it'll come, it'll go, because sometimes it contacts, sometimes it doesn't. And license plate bulbs and stuff don't use that much power. So a weak ground will really affect them more than something that uses a lot of power that would be able to force it through. It might get a little hot in the wires, but it would still work, where light bulbs don't use much power. So if the ground's bad, they'll just stop working. They won't send enough power through to make it go. Mauritius says, Scotty, what happened to Lucy, your cat from Houston? We no longer see her. Oh, she lives in Tennessee, in a house in Tennessee. And she's actually there by herself now with my grandkids and son that watch after her. She has her own 2-story stone cottage that she lives in with a cat flap. She can go in and out whenever she wants, go out, walk around. I just asked my son, show me a picture. She was rolling in the sun. She has her own house now, all by herself, with a cat flap. So she's got it on Easy Street. Cats are very territorial. I'm not going to bring a cat to Rhode Island. They don't like traveling, then they'd have to get used to it and you bring them back. Cats like being in one area. Now it's got its own house all by itself with people feeding it and petting it. The life of luxury here. DJ said, should I stick with 0W20 in my 2016 Honda Pilot, or is 5W20 okay? If it's made for 020, use 020. Just make sure you buy the new one, the GF6 oil that's 020. You buy that, that's the best oil for them. It will last longer. Believe me, the engineers at Honda know what they're doing when they design cars. Even if it burns a little oil, it's made for the 0W20 oil. The engineers know what they're doing. Don't second guess them. Just make sure it says GF6, because that's the new 020 oil that lasts longer and keeps the engine from wearing out. It's especially designed for it. Early this year, they brought it out, and it really is good oil. I've had people with Hondas that were burning oil, and they switched to the GF6 oil, same weight, and they don't burn oil anymore. It actually works. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.